Pregnant wife catches tycoon. Buying jewelry for Mistress, her vengeance was ruthless. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell. Because in the whirlwind of luxury and secrets, a tragic discovery set a fierce path of revenge in motion. Attention, lovers of drama and secrets. A pregnant wife catches her magnate husband buying a diamond necklace. Not for her, but for his mistress. Her revenge? It was ruthless. Hit the like button and share this story. You won't believe the lengths she went to ensure justice for herself and her unborn child. Part 1. The Gilded Cage and the Glaring Sign. Lorena Vidal grew up believing in fairy tales. Even approaching her 30s, she was the kind of person who delighted in small acts of kindness, saw beauty in the wings of a hummingbird, and believed true love could solve everything. Perhaps that was one reason she fell so deeply for Ricardo Soto, a millionaire real estate developer publicly known as a charming philanthropist, a man who spent generously at charity balls and fundraising dinners. He was tall, handsome, and had a relaxed confidence that made everyone, from waiters to CEOs, gravitate toward him. They married 2 years ago in a ceremony that sparkled with rose gold decor, crystal chandeliers, and the promise of a happily ever after in a luxurious hotel in Cartagena, Colombia. Now, Lorena was 7 months pregnant with their first child. At night, she would rest her hand on her belly, feeling the baby's gentle flutter within. She pictured the nursery they had decorated in warm grays and whites, with a moon and stars motif delicately scattered across the walls. Everything felt like a dream come true. They had a beautiful home nestled in the hills of Malaga, Spain, a luxury penthouse in Miami, and the means to travel anywhere. Ricardo's business thrived. The praise from people who envied their marriage, success, and apparent closeness was endless. They seemed like the perfect couple, glamorous, happy, and supportive. But it was all an illusion. The red flags had been gathering for months, though Lorena had ignored them. Ricardo had begun traveling more often, claiming he was consumed by new projects in Silicon Valley or overseas in Shanghai. His phone constantly buzzed with calls he took privately. He came home late, occasionally with the slightest trace of perfume that wasn't Lorena's. When she mentioned it, he would laugh it off, blaming it on a partner's wife who had hugged him at a party. Yet whenever Lorena asked for specific details, the conversation abruptly ended, or Ricardo quickly changed the subject, praising her new dress or her radiant skin. And soft-hearted, trusting Lorena believed him. One cool afternoon, however, she sensed a subtle but distinct shift. Her husband had left his tablet unlocked in the living room. Ricardo was usually meticulous about device security, talking endlessly about privacy, NDAs, and critical business negotiations. That evening, Lorena sat on the sofa, rubbing her growing belly, waiting for Ricardo to come down for dinner. When the tablet beeped with a new email, a subject line caught her eye. It read, "Your purchase at Joyas del Sol is ready." Joyas del Sol. The name conjured images of artisan jewelry and sparkling diamonds in display cases. Lorena's heart hammered faster. She told herself it was likely something Ricardo had bought for her, perhaps a push present or an anniversary gift. She opened the email with trembling hands. The message read, "Dear Mr. Soto, your custom-designed diamond necklace is complete. Please visit our flagship store on Avenida de la Libertad to collect it at your convenience. We look forward to serving you." Lorena scanned the details. A platinum chain, a 2-carat center diamond, engraved "Forever in my heart." She sat in stunned silence. The baby shifted uncomfortably in her womb, as if sensing her distress. Their second anniversary was the day after tomorrow. Could it be for her? She felt a pang of excitement, quickly overshadowed by worry. The cost and design sounded like something Ricardo would do, but the phrasing in the engraving didn't sound right. Ricardo was never one for forever in my heart. He used different pet names, different phrases. If anything, a carving for Lorena might be something like my shining star, or a reference to a beloved lullaby she often sang. This didn't fit. She closed the email, her mind spinning. Logic tried to assure her that perhaps Ricardo wanted it to be a surprise, but an ache began to form deep in her gut. She decided not to confront him immediately. Instead, she would wait, observe, and see if he revealed anything. The next morning, Ricardo left early, claiming he had a business meeting in the capital. Lorena feigned sleep, but the moment she heard the front door click shut, she got up and dressed. She needed answers. She made a plan. She would go to Joyas del Sol that afternoon, inquire about the necklace, and confirm if it was indeed for her. She felt sneaky, but the mounting suspicion in her heart demanded action. Lorena drove to the city, her heart pounding in her chest the entire way. She parked near Avenida de la Libertad, ignoring her usual inclination to monitor her parking expenses. Today, she just needed answers. The Joyas del Sol flagship store glittered in the morning sun. Polished door handles shone like gold. Walking in felt surreal. The store smelled of luxury and fresh-cut flowers, with display cases of diamonds, pearls, and precious stones spanning the floor. A polite man in a sleek suit greeted her. "How may I help you today?" She forced a smile. "I'm here about a custom necklace purchased under the name Ricardo Soto." The man quickly typed on a computer, then brightened. "Ah, yes, Señor Soto. It's a lovely piece." He reached under the counter and pulled out a turquoise box tied with a crisp white ribbon. "We are expecting his visit tomorrow or the day after, but feel free to inspect it if you are Mrs. Soto." Lorena swallowed as he opened the box. The necklace was stunning. A single round diamond set in platinum, shimmering even in the store's dim lighting. She looked at the engraving on the back of the diamond setting. It read, "Serena, forever in my heart." Lorena felt as though the floor had dropped out beneath her. Her pulse roared in her ears. The name Serena was not hers. She tried to hide the trembling in her hands as she closed the box. For a long moment, she just stood there, tears burning her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. To make a scene here would be to lose any upper hand she might have. She slowly took a deep breath. "That is lovely," she managed, her voice tight. "I'll let him collect it." Without waiting for further conversation, she turned and walked out of the store. Outside, the city sounds rushed in. Taxis honking, tourists chatting, the hum of an approaching bus. Lorena stumbled down the sidewalk until she found a quiet corner near a boutique entrance, where she leaned against the wall, gasping. Her worst fears were confirmed. The necklace wasn't for her. It was for someone else. Someone named Serena. Before Lorena met Ricardo, she had been an independent, spirited woman who believed that when an injustice was committed, you didn't just weep, you fought back. For the past 2 years, love had softened her. She had become complacent, letting Ricardo make the important decisions. But now, beneath the heartbreak, a fire began to ignite. The baby kicked again, as if reminding her of her responsibility. This was no longer just about her. It was about her child's future. If Ricardo had the audacity to cheat on her while she was pregnant, how far would his betrayal go? She remembered an old university friend, Isabella, who had become a private investigator. Lorena had always found Isabella's work exciting, but she never expected to need her services. Now seemed like the perfect time to call. She needed proof, concrete evidence of Ricardo's infidelity. If she decided to divorce him, she needed leverage, especially to secure the future of her unborn baby. Audience interaction point 1. Share your advice. If you were Lorena, who would you call first? A lawyer, or a private investigator to gather evidence. Why? Part 2. The quiet war begins. Later that evening, when she returned home, Ricardo was already there, pacing the living room with his phone in hand. Seeing her, he adopted his usual warm smile. "Hello, darling. Where have you been?" he asked with studied indifference. She felt bile rising in her throat but swallowed it down. "Just running errands in the city," she replied, trying to sound normal. Ricardo approached to kiss her forehead. She felt the coldness of his touch, the emptiness in his eyes. He was testing her for suspicion. She forced a tired smile. "I'm exhausted. The baby has been active," she said, going upstairs without further explanation. Inside her bedroom, she could barely rest. Her mind churned over the possibilities of how Ricardo had met this Serena, how long the affair had lasted, and whether he would choose to be with Lorena or the mistress if forced. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized she didn't want to be anyone's second choice. She was carrying his son, for heaven's sake. She deserved love, respect, and loyalty. She grabbed her phone and texted Isabella. "I need your help. It's urgent." Isabella met Lorena at a discreet cafe in central Valencia the next day. Dressed in jeans and a leather jacket, Isabella exuded a confidence that reminded Lorena of her college days. She had short, spiky hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Over 2 cappuccinos and Lorena's decaf latte, Lorena poured out her story. Ricardo's suspicious behavior, the growing distance, and the final confirmation at Joyas del Sol. Isabella's face was grim. "I'm so sorry you're going through this hell. You don't deserve it." She paused, sizing up her friend carefully. "Are you sure you want to go through with an investigation? Sometimes, once you open Pandora's box, you can't go back." Lorena looked at her belly, her heart clenching. "I have to know, and I need proof. This is bigger than me now." Isabella nodded and laid out her plan. She had a team of discreet operatives who could follow Ricardo, legally monitor his emails, and gather photographic evidence. She would document Ricardo's movements, catch him with Serena if possible, and compile everything Lorena would need for a worst-case scenario: confrontation, divorce, or even leverage. The following days were stressful for Lorena. She went through her usual routine: doctor's appointments, prenatal yoga, and even some baby room decorating, while trying not to think about what Isabella might uncover. Ricardo remained pleasant, though somewhat distant, at home. He seemed stressed, but Lorena suspected it was from juggling 2 women. Despite her rising emotions, Lorena began to notice every detail: how he checked his phone the moment it buzzed, how his smiles never reached his eyes, how his goodnight kiss had become superficial. One afternoon, Lorena was reading in bed when she received a text from Isabella. "He's at the Alcazar Hotel with her, sending details shortly." Lorena's blood ran cold. The Alcazar Hotel was one of Marbella's most luxurious spots, boasting high-end suites and a celebrity-frequented bar. It made sense that Ricardo would choose a location befitting his lavish lifestyle. Heart-pounding, Lorena waited for the next text. Several minutes later, Isabella sent photos. The images were startlingly clear: Ricardo in an elevator with a dazzling brunette on his arm. Then another shot: Ricardo and the brunette entering a suite, the door closing behind them. Lorena stared at the woman. She was tall, model-like, with glossy hair that fell in waves down her back. Her face was partially turned, but Lorena could see a look of smug satisfaction on her lips. Serena. This was the woman who had captured her husband's attention, and Ricardo was obviously besotted. Lorena's first instinct was to drive to the hotel, pound on the suite door, and scream. But then her baby kicked, a strangely timely reminder. She couldn't be reckless. She was in her 3rd trimester, and stress was dangerous. Besides, Ricardo was cunning. If Lorena confronted him without a plan, he could lie, cover his tracks, or even blame her for invading his privacy and twist the story in some convoluted way. So she waited. When Ricardo returned home the following afternoon, she forced herself to greet him with a weary smile, her face betraying only slight exhaustion, not the fury she felt inside. "Working late again?" she asked casually, flipping through a magazine on the kitchen counter. "Yeah," he replied, tossing his jacket aside. "Big project. These clients are driving me crazy." Lorena looked at him. "You must be exhausted." He shrugged. "A bit. Might turn in early." "You?" She nodded. The conversation felt painfully mundane. He gave her a half hug, a brief peck on the cheek, and trudged upstairs. Lorena watched him go, thinking about the ease with which he slipped into this domestic role. How could he be cheating just hours before and then return as if nothing had happened? The thought made her stomach turn. That night, she barely slept. Thoughts of Serena, the baby, and Ricardo's betrayal spun ceaselessly in her mind. In the early hours of the morning, she remembered a detail from Isabella's photos. Ricardo was carrying a small turquoise bag when he escorted Serena into that suite. Joyas del Sol. No doubt, that was the diamond necklace. Her gift, not the mistress's gift. Over the next week, Lorena maintained her facade. Isabella provided regular updates and more damning evidence. Timestamps of Ricardo visiting Serena's penthouse in Madrid, receipts for extravagant dinners, spa dates charged to Ricardo's corporate card. Each piece of evidence was like a knife twisting in Lorena's heart, but it also fueled her determination. She recalled one vital fact. Ricardo's fortune was built on real estate developments, but he had always used a complex web of shell companies and partnerships to minimize taxes and liability. Lorena only had a superficial understanding of these structures. Ricardo rarely discussed the details, but she knew enough to realize that his empire could be more fragile than it looked. If his public image was tarnished, or if his partners discovered a scandal, he could lose crucial backing. Moreover, his philanthropic facade was important for maintaining good relationships with city officials. A public scandal would be disastrous for his business. Lorena decided to reach out to an old friend of Ricardo's, a lawyer named Pablo Ruiz, who had always harbored a quiet fondness for her. Pablo was the kind of person who knew how to keep secrets, but also valued justice. If Lorena needed leverage against Ricardo, Pablo would know exactly where to apply the pressure. She arranged to meet Pablo for lunch at a private club in San Sebastian. Pablo listened intently as Lorena revealed Ricardo's infidelity and the evidence she had collected. His face grew grim. "I'm sorry, Lorena," he said quietly. "Are you sure you want to go to war over this? Divorces can get messy, particularly when so much money is involved." Lorena's jaw tightened. "I am sure, but I will not act rashly. I have to consider my baby. I need to guarantee our future. That means I need to protect myself legally, financially, and emotionally." Pablo nodded. "Given that Ricardo has a reputation to uphold, if you present him with a well-documented infidelity case, it could force him into a very favorable settlement for you, especially with the baby involved. You could hold the threat of a public scandal over his head." He paused. "But what?" Lorena asked. Pablo hesitated. "He may not surrender without a fight, and there is always the risk of you looking vindictive. You might face public scrutiny. The tabloids love a scandal like this, especially if Ricardo's name is big enough. If you're serious, we'll need more than just proof of his affair. We'll need something to truly back him into a corner." Lorena stared at the tablecloth, stirring her iced water distractedly. "I don't just want a settlement. I want him to feel the same pain he inflicted. This man has humiliated me, disrespected our vows, and risked our family's future over his fling. It's not just about money. It's about teaching him a lesson he will never forget." Pablo studied her face, seeing the steely determination there. I understand. Let's stay in touch, and I will wait for your instructions. Part 3. The Seeds of Destruction. One evening, Lorena was rearranging the nursery closet when her phone rang. Isabella, again. She answered quickly. You are not going to believe what I found, Isabella said, her tone a mix of excitement and gravity. I ran a thorough background check on Serena Jimenez. She used to be an aspiring actress. She had minor roles in off-Broadway productions. Then she disappeared from that scene after getting involved with some wealthy older men. Her history is interesting, to say the least. She's been involved in a couple of secret paternity disputes. Lorena felt her skin tingle. Meaning what? Isabella sighed. Meaning she may have gotten pregnant by someone wealthy before, or at least claimed to. She took an entrepreneur in Buenos Aires to court for child support, but eventually dropped the case, likely after a hefty settlement. It looks like Serena is a professional gold digger. She latches on to powerful men, squeezes as much money or gifts out of them as possible, and then moves on. Lorena's eyes narrowed. Does Ricardo know about this? Hard to say, Isabella replied. She might be lying to him, but if Ricardo is truly infatuated, he might be ignoring all the warning signs. A woman like Serena knows exactly how to manipulate a man, especially a wealthy one. She probably told him she loved him, that he was different from all the rest, and he believed her. That news further fueled Lorena's anger. Her husband was not only cheating, but also gullible enough to fall for a con artist. The baby stirred within her, a reminder that time was running short. She needed to finalize her plan. Lorena stayed awake in bed that night, her mind humming with strategies. Divorcing Ricardo would be simple enough with the evidence of his infidelity, but that wasn't enough. She wanted to do something that stung him, something that would remind him he couldn't treat people like disposable objects. She carefully considered the timing. She was due to give birth in about 2 months. It might be risky to enact a massive plan now, but it might also be perfect. Ricardo would never expect his pregnant wife to have the time or energy for cunning moves. She texted Isabella in the morning, telling her she wanted more detailed information on Ricardo's business dealings. She wanted something that could cause him genuine fear, potentially an angle that threatened his carefully curated public image. Within days, Isabella delivered. She uncovered that Ricardo had forged a few signatures and manipulated zoning permits to fast-track one of his real estate projects in northern Chile. It was not strictly legal, and if it came to light, Ricardo could face investigations or even legal charges. Lorena's eyes gleamed when she heard this. She could hardly believe how reckless Ricardo had been. Then again, he was so accustomed to bending the rules in his favor. With the right push, this scandal could knock Ricardo down a few pegs, perhaps even threaten his entire empire. But Lorena had to use the information wisely. She decided on a two-pronged approach: expose Ricardo's infidelity to close friends and family, ensuring his reputation took a hit in personal circles; subtly leak the shady zoning permit details so they reached potential business partners, certenos, making them hesitant about their collaborations. Simultaneously, she would give Ricardo the opportunity to offer her a significant settlement, enough to secure her child's future for life. If he accepted, she could consider calling off the full exposure. If he refused, she would open the floodgates. To set the stage, Lorena planned an elaborate dinner party at their Malaga estate, ostensibly to celebrate the baby's upcoming arrival. She invited Ricardo's key business partners and their spouses, along with a few of her closest friends. The day of the party, she wore a flowing emerald green dress that showcased her pregnant bump, but still radiated elegance. Ricardo, oblivious, was all smiles, playing the perfect host. All evening, Lorena flitted from conversation to conversation, forging alliances without Ricardo noticing. She implied she was worried about Ricardo's work stress, mentioning that he had been working at odd hours and seemed distant. She watched as looks of concern passed between the guests. She subtly planted seeds of doubt about whether Ricardo was truly the saintly husband everyone believed him to be. During dinner, Lorena stood up to make a toast. Holding her sparkling cider, she started with a warm smile. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate this wonderful time in our lives. Ricardo and I are thrilled to be welcoming our baby soon. I must say, motherhood has taught me a lot, especially about the importance of honesty and trust." She paused, letting the words hang in the air. She saw Ricardo's smile falter slightly. "I've learned that secrets have a way of coming out, no matter how hard we try to hide them." Some people looked puzzled. Ricardo shot Lorena a warning glance, but she continued with a sweet smile. "So, let's toast to new beginnings. May they be free of secrets and built on honesty." Applause followed, but a tense undercurrent stirred in the room. Ricardo tugged at his tie. He wasn't stupid. He recognized the subtext of her words. He forced a laugh and kissed Lorena's cheek. "Well said," he murmured, his eyes searching hers in confusion. The next morning, Ricardo cornered Lorena in the study, his jaw tight with annoyance. "What was that toast about?" he asked. "You sounded like you were hinting at something specific." Lorena gave him a placid look. "Just thoughts on marriage, just in the future." He narrowed his eyes. "If something is bothering you, let's talk about it." His gaze flickered. "Would you tell me if you were hiding something, or would you lie about it?" Ricardo's face momentarily paled. She watched him recalculate, trying to maintain his composure. "Where is this coming from? Are you being paranoid? Maybe it's the hormones." That jab hurt. Lorena took a deep breath. "Stop using my pregnancy as an excuse. I am not stupid, Ricardo. I want you to be honest with me, right now. Are you having an affair?" His eyes darted away for a split second. That was all Lorena needed to confirm her worst fears, but she waited for his reply. "Of course not," he finally said. His voice lacked conviction. "I love you. You know that." She scoffed softly. "You're lying." With that, she turned and walked out of the study, leaving Ricardo there with his jaw clenched in anger. She knew he would likely confront her again, but for now, leaving him in limbo worked in her favor. The next day, Lorena began implementing the second part of her plan. She called Pablo and gave him the go-ahead to discreetly leak the zoning permit scandal to a strategic contact, someone who would alert Ricardo's potential new partners. She wanted them to start asking questions, instigating a panic within Ricardo's circle. Simultaneously, Lorena confronted Ricardo with a written ultimatum. She wanted a post-nuptial agreement that granted her full custody of their child, a substantial financial settlement, and ownership of certain assets like the Malaga house if they divorced. She placed it in a sealed envelope on his desk, labeled in bold, "Divorce terms." 2 days later, Ricardo came home raging. The moment he walked through the door, Lorena could feel his anger. He stormed into the living room where she was reading, brandishing the sealed envelope. "What is this?" he hissed. Lorena looked up calmly. "You read it. You tell me." He threw it onto the coffee table. "You're threatening me. A post-nuptial agreement, plus this nonsense about an affair." "Nonsense," Lorena repeated. She stood up, bracing herself for the confrontation she knew was inevitable. "I know about Serena Jimenez. I know about the necklace from Joyas del Sol. I know about your nights at the Alcazar Hotel. I have photos, Ricardo." For a moment, Ricardo looked as though he had been punched in the gut. His face went white, and he actually stumbled a step backward. Then rage replaced shock. "You've been spying on me!" Lorena let out a bitter laugh. "I've been protecting myself, my unborn child. You left me no choice." He began pacing, running his hands through his hair. "It's not what you think," he muttered. "Serena is just... She's just a distraction. It's for business, too. She knows people. I need to close a deal. Don't insult me, Lorena snapped, her voice trembling with indignation. I have heard enough lies. I want you to sign that agreement guaranteeing me everything I ask for, or else I release the evidence of your affair to your business partners, your family, your mother, the press, whoever. And that's not all. He paused, eyes wide, as she handed him a folder with a generic lawyer's logo on it. Inside were documents detailing the zoning permit fraud. She watched the color drain from his face again. You're blackmailing me, he whispered. She crossed her arms over her chest. I am giving you a choice. Repair me or face the consequences. Part 4. The Reckoning and the Fall. That night, Ricardo refused to sign anything. Storming out of the house in a fury, Lorena surmised he would run straight to Serena for comfort or counsel. Sure enough, a few hours later, Isabella texted Lorena that Ricardo was at Serena's penthouse. But something unexpected happened. Around midnight, Lorena's phone rang again. It was a call from Isabella, her voice urgent. You are not going to believe this, Laura. Serena just had a screaming match with Ricardo. She kicked him out of the penthouse. There was yelling. Neighbors heard it all. Something about money. Lorena felt a grim satisfaction. She had suspected it. Serena was a gold digger. Now that Ricardo's business was showing signs of trouble, Serena must have smelled the potential fall. The cracks in Ricardo's empire were starting to show. If Ricardo lost everything, Serena would jump ship faster than anyone could blink. The next morning, Lorena found Ricardo asleep in the living room, stubble covering his jaw, his tie loose, his suit wrinkled. An empty whiskey glass stood on the side table. She silently made breakfast. The smell of coffee filled the kitchen. When Ricardo finally stirred, he shuffled over to the kitchen counter. You have no idea what you've done, he said in a rough voice. My investors are pulling out of a major development. They heard about some rumored legal irregularities. My phone has been ringing all morning. People want answers. Lorena offered him a calm look, then signed the agreement. Ricardo slammed his fist onto the counter, making her jump slightly. This is my life's work. You are trying to ruin me, Lorena. A flicker of pain crossed her face. You already ruined something far more precious. Our marriage. You want to talk about destruction? What about what you did to me, to our child? This was supposed to be a time of joy, and you chose betrayal. Tears stung her eyes, despite her attempts at composure. And for a moment, Ricardo looked remorseful. I never meant for it to go this far, he whispered. Serena was she was fun. A break from the stress. I didn't think. No, you didn't think, Lorena said quietly. And now you have to face the consequences. He slumped into a chair, burying his face in his hands. The tension in the room was palpable. Lorena almost felt pity for him, but then she recalled the Joyas del Sol necklace, the nights at the hotel, the lies upon lies. Her resolve hardened. Just as Lorena thought the drama might reach a stalemate, she received an unexpected call. The caller ID said blocked, but she answered anyway. Hello, is this Lorena Soto? A husky female voice asked. Lorena held her breath. Yes, who is this? I'm Serena Jimenez, the woman purred. Lorena tensed. Why are you calling me? A slight pause. I thought you might want to know what Ricardo is up to. We had a falling out, and I can't stand being lied to anymore. I suspect you and I have more in common than you think. Lorena gripped the phone. This was unexpected. Go on. Serena let out a bitter laugh. Your husband told me he was leaving you, that you were a frigid, controlling woman, that he only married you for his money. He claimed he didn't want the baby, that it was all your idea. He said he wanted to start a new life with me. Then, after he gave me that necklace, I found out he was lying about half his promises. He wouldn't even pay off my debts. Then I heard rumors his business is in trouble, so I told him to leave. Lorena inhaled slowly, her heart thumping. So Ricardo had planned to discard her, disown his interest in their baby, and was feeding Serena a false story. "What do you want from me?" Lorena asked, her voice eerily calm. "I want revenge," Serena said. "I gave up some opportunities for Ricardo. I turned down other suitors who could have offered me more. So if there's a way to take him down together, I'm in." Lorena paused. She didn't trust Serena for a second, but this could be useful. "I don't need your help," Lorena said. "I already have enough leverage over Ricardo." Serena chuckled coyly. "Suit yourself, but if you need me, you know how to reach me." The call ended, leaving Lorena slightly shaken. Ricardo had lied to Serena about his intentions. Not that Lorena was surprised, but hearing the confirmation from the mistress herself stung. It made her realize how twisted Ricardo had become, or perhaps always was. As the tension escalated, Lorena decided it was time to involve Ricardo's mother, Margarita Soto, a severe, classy woman in her late 60s. Margarita adored Lorena and often said she had never seen Ricardo so happy as when he was with her. Lorena had hesitated to drag the elderly woman into this mess, but Margarita was the closest thing to a moral compass Ricardo had. Lorena invited Margarita for tea. She couldn't hide her distress. Within minutes of their conversation, Margarita placed a hand over Lorena's. "My dear, you look so troubled. Tell me, what is wrong?" Tears welled in Lorena's eyes. She recounted Ricardo's affair, the necklace, the hotel visits, and the heartbreak. Margarita listened in silence, her face pale with shock. "I cannot believe he would do this," Margarita whispered, her voice trembling. "You are carrying his child. How could he be so heartless?" Lorena dabbed her eyes with a tissue. "I love him, Margarita. Or at least I loved who I thought he was, but I can't forgive him for this." Margarita straightened her shoulders. "He is my son, but I will not excuse his behavior. If you need me to testify or support you, I will. He must face the repercussions of his actions. I will not allow him to ruin your life or my grandchild's." A deep gratitude welled up in Lorena. She hugged Margarita tightly. "Thank you. I hope he realizes what he has lost before it is too late." In the days that followed, Lorena's plan reached its climax. She emailed Ricardo an ultimatum, an official request to sign the post-nuptial agreement. She attached the damning photos and documentation. She copied Pablo Ruiz, her lawyer friend, to show she was serious. The response was swift. Ricardo came home earlier than usual, looking haggard and disheveled. "We need to talk," he said in a defeated tone. Lorena watched him with weariness. "I'm listening," he swallowed. "I'll sign, but I need you to keep everything quiet. I can't lose my company, my reputation. I can't lose my freedom." Lorena's lips pressed into a thin line. "You should have thought about that before you chose to stray." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I know. I was an idiot. I never meant to hurt you or our baby. Please, I just beg you." Lorena pulled out the document, pointing to the signature line. "Sign." His gaze pleaded with hers for mercy, but she offered only a stern, unyielding expression. With a trembling hand, Ricardo signed. She felt a strange pang in her chest as she watched him scrawl his name. A part of her had loved this man deeply. To see him reduced to this state made her heart twist with pity, anger, and a tinge of sorrow. When he was done, she slid the papers back into a folder. "I will have my lawyer file these," she said. "So let's be clear. If you fail to comply with every term of that agreement, I will release everything." He nodded, looking like a man awaiting execution. "Understood." Lorena turned to walk away, but Ricardo gently grabbed her wrist. "Lorena, She didn't let him finish. She pulled away. "No," she whispered. "Don't say anything. It's too late. You should have thought about your family before you decided to stray." Audience interaction point 5. If you were Lorena, would you have let Ricardo finish his apology? Or do you think she was right to end the conversation right there? Comment below. Part 5. The New Beginning. Even after Ricardo signed the agreement, the tension in the house was unbearable. Lorena felt suffocated sharing the same space with him. She had Pablo expedite the legal process to secure her assets and future in case she filed for divorce. Ricardo tried to talk to her several times, offering apologies and half-hearted explanations. Lorena listened in stony silence. She was beyond caring about his reasons. He had humiliated her in the most public and personal way possible. No amount of apology could repair the shattered trust. Meanwhile, the rumors began to swirl in social and business circles. Word spread that Ricardo and Lorena were on the outs. Some suspected an affair. Others blamed work stress. Investors pulled out of deals, unwilling to risk associating with a potential scandal. Ricardo's empire began to totter, though he struggled to contain the damage. Serena Jimenez, for her part, disappeared into the shadows. According to Isabella, she left Madrid entirely, possibly latching onto a new benefactor. Lorena barely cared. She was simply relieved the woman was out of her life. One afternoon, Lorena was folding baby clothes in the nursery when Ricardo walked in heavily. He was pale, his eyes ringed with fatigue. "We need to talk finances," he said quietly. She turned. "Artros." Earned arms crossed. "I'm listening," he swallowed. "My accounts are frozen or under investigation. The leaked information about the permits triggered a federal inquiry. My partners have withdrawn. The bank is threatening foreclosure on a couple of developments. Lorena, I'm losing everything." A small spark of vindication ignited within her. "You should have realized how precarious your position was before you broke your vows." He sank into the rocking chair. "I know I deserve it. But what about the baby? Our son shouldn't suffer for my mistakes." Lorena stared at him. Despite her anger, she did not want her child's future jeopardized by Ricardo's downfall. "I have taken steps to protect the baby," she said. "I have the post-nuptial agreement. If you go bankrupt, you will still owe child support, but I can't magically fix your business problems." Ricardo nodded miserably. "I'm going to try to save what I can, but I wanted you to know I truly am sorry." For a fleeting moment, Lorena almost believed he was sincere, but her heart was too bruised to forgive. "You made your bed, Ricardo. Now lie in it." In the final weeks of her pregnancy, Lorena began to wrestle with whether she wanted Ricardo in the delivery room. The thought of him holding her hand after what he had done was repulsive. On the other hand, this was his son too. She struggled with the decision and confided in Margarita for guidance. Margarita was kind, but firm. "Lorena, you have every right to ban him from the delivery room if you choose. But remember, the baby will ask about his father someday. How you handle this moment could influence your child's sense of belonging." Lorena nodded, her eyes tear-filled. "I'm so torn. I don't want him near me, but I also feel guilty." Margarita squeezed her hand. "Follow your instincts. No one can decide but you." A few days before Lorena's due date, she unexpectedly went into labor in the middle of the night. She was alone in the house. Ricardo had been staying at a hotel for the past week to avoid tense encounters. In a panic and in pain, Lorena called Isabella, who rushed her to the hospital. In the flurry of hospital corridors and nurses hooking her up to monitors, Lorena gripped the bed rails, breathing through the contractions. She did not call Ricardo. She was determined to bring this child into the world, surrounded by people she trusted. Margarita, hearing the news, arrived shortly after, holding Lorena's hand as she labored. Finally, after hours of pain, Lorena gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The moment she heard his cry, the world seemed to shift. Tears streamed down her face as the nurse placed him on her chest. His tiny hands and pink cheeks filled her with a rush of protective love. In that very moment, Ricardo burst into the delivery room, panting and breathless. He must have heard from Margarita. He froze at the sight of Lorena cradling their newborn. For a brief second, pure wonder filled his eyes, but Lorena's heart had hardened. She turned away, shielding her baby from him. "You were not invited," she murmured, pressing her lips to the baby's forehead. Ricardo stood there, a mixture of yearning and regret etched on his face. He didn't push. He simply watched from a distance as the nurses attended to Lorena and the newborn. In the days that followed, Lorena named her baby Oliver. She allowed Ricardo to visit Oliver occasionally, but always with a nurse or Margarita in the room. She did not want to speak to him. She was healing physically from the birth, emotionally from the betrayal. Meanwhile, Ricardo faced the full brunt of his bad decisions. His real estate empire collapsed under legal scrutiny. He managed to avoid jail time by cooperating with authorities, but he lost major businesses, properties, and the trust of high-profile investors. Reports swirled in the media about potential fraud in his developments. Some tabloids even hinted at an affair that had caused the internal turmoil. His name became tainted, a symbol of a millionaire's pride leading to a downfall. Lorena, with Pablo's help, filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. The post-nuptial agreement ensured she received a hefty settlement. Though Ricardo's finances were severely depleted, she was left with the Malaga house, sufficient funds to secure Oliver's education, and a good sum to rebuild her own life. One afternoon, Serena Jimenez's name resurfaced in the news. She had apparently sold her story to a gossip magazine, detailing her affair with Ricardo Soto, even providing photos of the Joyas del Sol necklace, text messages, and more. The article painted Ricardo in an unflattering light, a philanderer who neglected his pregnant wife for a mistress. Public opinion turned sharply against him, even among his former supporters. Lorena felt a strange sense of closure. She had initially threatened to release similar information, but Serena had done it for her own gain. In the end, Ricardo's downfall was sealed. The public humiliation was total. In the weeks and months following Oliver's birth, Lorena focused on motherhood. She found solace in the daily routines of feeding, cooing, singing lullabies, and watching her son's every miraculous first. The heartbreak lingered, but her son's smile offered an unexpected balm. When Ricardo came to see Oliver, he was the shadow of the man he once was. Humble, quiet, almost broken. Lorena only permitted short, supervised visits. She wanted Oliver to know his father, but she also needed to guard her peace. Lorena began therapy to heal from the betrayal. She also reconnected with friends she had lost touch with during her marriage. Slowly, she reclaimed her identity. She discovered she had a talent for interior design, a passion she cultivated before marrying Ricardo. With the money from her settlement, she opened a small design studio, determined to forge a future where she could stand on her own. Occasionally, she found herself reflecting on the extraordinary lengths she had gone to for revenge. A part of her worried she had stooped too low, become vindictive. But then she reminded herself that Ricardo had made his choices. He had sown the seeds of his own destruction. She had simply refused to be his victim. Almost a year after Oliver's birth, the final divorce decree was signed, granting Lorena primary custody. One morning, she stood on the balcony of her Malaga estate, gazing at the sprawling lawn where Oliver would someday run and play. A sense of peace enveloped her, a freedom she hadn't felt in a long time. Margarita visited often, doting on Oliver, grateful that Lorena hadn't cut the Sotos out of her life entirely. As for Ricardo, he now lived more modestly, renting a small apartment in the city. He had begun a slow, painful climb back to some semblance of financial stability, taking smaller consulting jobs. He never openly asked for Lorena's forgiveness, perhaps believing he didn't deserve it. On a bright spring day, Lorena sat on the grass with Oliver, who now crawled with bright, inquisitive eyes. She watched him chase a butterfly, giggling in the sunlight. She realized that even though her marriage ended in betrayal, it had given her the greatest gift of all: her son. The memory of Ricardo's betrayal remained a wound, but it no longer bled. It was a scar, reminding her of her own strength, her capacity to overcome, and the fierce love she felt for her son. Her revenge had been brutal, yes, but it was also a means of survival in a cruel, unexpected storm. And from that storm, she had emerged stronger, with a future she could mold as she pleased. Final call to action. Thank you for joining me on this intense journey through betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimately, fierce empowerment. Lorena's story is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, when trust is broken and innocence is lost, one can rise stronger and fight for what truly matters. She refused to be a victim and claimed victory over her fate, ensuring her child's future remained secure. It's a story of brutal karma that proves actions always have consequences, and sometimes those who betray end up facing the harshest punishments of all. If you were captivated by the twists, passion, and retribution of this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more fascinating stories like this to life. Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done in Lorena's position? Until next time, stay strong and stand up for what is right.